Hey there everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're jumping into entertainment and movie history. Every year, the Oscars sells us the same dream. Glamour, prestige, perfect speeches, and Hollywood pretending that it has everything under control. And almost every year, that dream cracks right down the middle. Somebody refuses an award. Somebody else hijacks the moment. Somebody turns live television into a beautiful train wreck. And once, just once, a man called the entire ceremony a 2-hour meat parade. These are not the moments they rehearsed. These are the gasps, the rebellion, the meltdowns, the standing ovations, and the bits of live TV chaos that made people at home lean forward and say, wait a minute, did that really just happen? From historic moments to political messages, we're going to cover it all and everything in between. But first, please remember to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next, and if you haven't already, drop a like on this video. It helps a lot more than you think. Alright, let's get back to it. This is EZ Ranks Top 20 Oscar Moments. Number 20. Hattie McDaniel wins at a segregated ceremony in 1940. Let's start at the beginning. Well, almost. I mean one of the most bittersweet moments in the entire history of the Oscars. February 29th, 1940. The 12th Academy Awards. There, at the Coconut Grove nightclub, inside the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, Gone with the Wind is the most nominated film of the night, and its stars are seated right there at the front. While most of its stars, the white ones at least, Hattie McDaniel is not at that table. You see, the Ambassador Hotel, like many places of the time, had a strict segregation policy. McDaniel was not allowed inside, and the only reason she was there was because producer David O. Selznick personally called in a favor. Even then, it was met with specific conditions. She had to sit at a segregated table for two, pushed against the far wall of the room, away from everyone else, even her co-stars. And those castmates from the biggest movie of the year were 30 feet away. She might as well have been in a different building altogether. And then, they called her name. Hattie McDaniel became the first black person to ever win an Oscar, taking Best Supporting Actress for her role as Mammy. She walked from the back of that room to the front, stood at the podium, and delivered one of the most graceful, restrained acceptance speeches in Oscar history.
Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science, fellow members of the motion picture industry, and honored guests. This is one of the happiest moments of my life, and I want to thank each one of you who had a part in selecting me for one of the awards. For your kindness, it has made me feel very, very humble, and I shall always hold it as a beacon for anything that I may be able to do in the future. I sincerely hope I shall always be a credit to my race and to the motion picture industry. My heart is too full to tell you just how I feel, and may I say thank you. God bless you.
After the ceremony, her white co-stars went out to celebrate at a club. McDaniel still couldn't join them. The club also had a no black people policy. 12 years later, the Oscar itself was willed to Howard University after Hattie passed away, and it disappeared sometime in the late 60s. To this day, it's never been found. Number 19. Sidney Poitier, first black Best Actor winner, 1964. 24 years after Hattie McDaniel had to walk from the back of a segregated room, Sidney Poitier walked to the front of a very different one. April 13, 1964, the 36th Academy Awards. This is the height of the Civil Rights Movement. Just 5 weeks before the film's release, the March on Washington had happened, and Poitier was there. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech was still echoing in the national consciousness. And here comes Sidney Poitier, nominated for Best Actor for Lilies of the Field, up against Albert Finney, Paul Newman, Richard Harris, and Rex Harrison. He was not expected to win, and Poitier almost didn't show up. He seriously considered skipping the ceremony, not wanting to be turned into a symbol. But as he later wrote in his memoir, he decided to attend because he thought it would be good for black people to see him competing for the highest honor. When Anne Bancroft read his name and he rose from his seat, it wasn't just an acting award, it was a cultural earthquake. She congratulated him with a kiss on the cheek, which, believe it or not, caused a small scandal of audiences in 1964. Poitier knew the weight of the moment, but he also knew his limits. The day after his win, he told a reporter, "I'd like to think it will help someone, but I don't believe my Oscar will be a sort of magic wand that will wipe away the restrictions on job opportunities for Negro actors." He was right. It would be another 19 years before another black actor won the lead category. But that night, he made history. Number 18. Hitchcock's two-word speech, 1968. Now this one is short, painfully, perfectly short. Alfred Hitchcock is arguably the most important director in the history of cinema. Psycho, Vertigo, Rear Window, North by Northwest, The Birds. The man essentially invented the thriller as we know it, and he never won a Best Director Oscar, not once. He was nominated 5 times for Rebecca, Lifeboat, Spellbound, Rear Window, and Psycho, and lost every single time. So, in 1968, the Academy did what the Academy does when it realizes it's done embarrassingly wrong for decades. It gave him an honorary award, the Irvin G. Thalberg Memorial Award, which is essentially Hollywood's way of saying sorry, our bad. Hitchcock walked to the podium, the room was ready for a speech, ready for the master of suspense to hold court, maybe crack some of his famous dry wit, maybe roast the Academy a little bit for making him wait so long. But instead, he just said,
"Thank you."
2 words, that's it. The greatest director of all time finally getting his moment, and he chose to make it the most Hitchcockian moment possible. The suspense of what he might say was better than anything he could have actually said. Some people think it was a subtle dig at the Academy. Others think he was genuinely moved and too emotional to continue. Honestly, it might be both, and that ambiguity is exactly why it's perfect. Number 17. Charlie Chaplin's 12-minute standing ovation, 1972. If Hitchcock's moment was the shortest acceptance speech in history, what happened to Charlie Chaplin might be the longest. In 1972, Chaplin had been gone from America for 20 years. During the Red Scare of the early 1950s, the FBI and the US government essentially drove him out of the country, revoking his re-entry permit while he was traveling abroad. The man who created The Tramp, one of the most memorable and beloved characters in the history of entertainment, was told he wasn't welcome in America anymore. So when the Academy invited him back to receive an honorary award in 1972, it wasn't just an Oscar moment, it was a homecoming. Chaplin was 82 years old. He walked onto the stage at Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, and the room exploded. The audience rose to their feet and didn't sit down for 12 straight minutes. It remains the longest standing ovation in the history of the Academy Awards. Chaplin was visibly overwhelmed, and you could see it in his face. This was the end of something. He'd been making people laugh and cry since before most of the audience was even born. And now, here they were, all of them, standing for him.
I can only say that thank you for the honor of inviting me here. And, you're wonderful, sweet people. Thank you.
Chaplin died 5 years later. Number 16. George C. Scott refuses his Oscar, 1971. In 1970, George C. Scott delivered what is still considered one of the greatest performances in film history, when he played General George S. Patton in the film Patton. The opening scene alone, Scott standing in front of a massive American flag delivering a 6-minute monologue, is one of the most iconic moments in cinema. Everyone knew he'd be nominated. Everyone knew he'd probably win, and Scott told all of them, very clearly, that he didn't want it. He sent a telegram to the Academy, "I respectfully request that you withdraw my name from the list of nominees." He called the ceremony a 2-hour meat parade, a public display with contrived suspense for economic reasons. The Academy said no, we're nominating you anyway. On Oscar night, April 15, 1971, Goldie Hawn opened the Best Actor envelope and gasped, "The winner is George C. Scott."
Oh my God. The winner is George C. Scott.
Except Scott wasn't there. He was at his farm in upstate New York, watching a hockey game, in fact. He didn't even have the ceremony on TV. His refusal actually helped the Academy. At the time, the Oscars were dealing with legitimacy questions, after Cliff Robertson's aggressive campaign basically proved you could buy a nomination. By giving it to a guy who actively didn't want it, the Academy got to say, "See, these awards can't be bought. We gave it to somebody who told us to get lost." The Oscar itself ended up at the Virginia Military Institute, where the real General Patton went to school. George C. Scott never even touched it. 2 years later, Marlon Brando watched what George C. Scott did and essentially said, "Hold my beer." Number 15. Marlon Brando refuses, March 27, 1973. Brando wins Best Actor for The Godfather. Everyone in the room expects him to walk up onto the stage. Instead, a young woman in a patchy dress approaches the podium. Her name is Sacheen Littlefeather, and she's carrying a letter from Brando. She tells the audience that Brando can't accept the award because of the treatment of American Indians by the film industry and television, in movie reruns and in recent events at Wounded Knee. The Wounded Knee occupation had started just a month earlier, and Brando wanted to use the biggest stage in entertainment to force people to pay attention. The audience's reaction was split right down the middle. You could hear cheers and boos in equal measure. Backstage, it was even more heated. John Wayne reportedly had to be physically restrained from charging the stage. Scott's refusal was principled, Brando's was political, and the combination of the two, back to back, fundamentally changed what the Oscars stage could be used for. Number 14, The Streaker and David Niven's Perfect Ad-Lib. April 2nd, 1974, the 46th Academy Awards. David Niven, the epitome of British elegance, is on stage, about to introduce Elizabeth Taylor. It's the Best Picture category and the final award for the night. And then, a completely naked man runs across the stage. His name was Robert Opel, and in full view of an estimated 75 million television viewers, he streaked across the biggest stage in entertainment, flashing a peace sign to the audience. The room erupted, people screamed, the camera cut away, and David Niven, without missing a single beat, turned to the microphone and said,
"Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was almost bound to happen. But isn't it fascinating to think that probably the only laugh that man will ever get in his life is by stripping off and showing his shortcomings."
That is genuinely one of the greatest ad-libs in the history of live television. But hold on a minute. There's also actually a theory that the streak was an inside job, and the show's producers may have been in on it to boost ratings. Number 13, Rob Lowe and Snow White, the Oscar disaster of 1989. If The Streaker was the funniest unplanned moment in Oscar history, the Rob Lowe and Snow White opening number is the most painfully planned one.
Oh, Mr. Lowe, I'm such a fan.
Really? Well, I'm a big fan of yours, Snow, but you know, there's so much I'd like to know about you.
The 61st Academy Awards in 1989 opened with a production number so terrible that it nearly killed the opening act as a concept forever. Producer Alan Carr decided that the Oscars needed a glitzy Vegas-style opening, so he cast Rob Lowe, at the time one of the biggest young stars in Hollywood, to perform a musical duet with an actress dressed as Snow White. They sang Proud Mary together in front of the entire entertainment industry. It went about as well as you'd think it would. Rob Lowe couldn't sing. The choreography was stiff. The whole thing felt like a fever dream produced by someone who had the ceremony described to them but never actually watched it. The backlash was nuclear. 17 major Hollywood figures, including Paul Newman, Billy Wilder, and Gregory Peck, signed an open letter calling the ceremony an embarrassment to both the Academy and the entire motion picture industry. Disney actually threatened to sue over the unauthorized use of the Snow White character. The silver lining, of course, is that this disaster is directly responsible for the Academy moving toward comedian hosts. The thinking was, if you're going to open the show, at least get someone who can handle it when things go sideways. Which brings us to Billy Crystal's era, and eventually to the kind of hosting we see today. Number 12, Sally Field, You Like Me, 1985. March 25th, 1985. Sally Field wins her second Best Actress nomination for Places in the Heart. She had already won years earlier for Norma Ray, so this wasn't her first time at the podium. But this time something happened. She got caught up in the emotion, and out came...
I can't deny the fact that you like me. Right now, you like me.
What's fascinating is that almost everyone misquotes it. The version that lives in popular culture is, you like me, you really like me, with the really in there for extra desperation. But she never really said it like that. No pun intended. The actual quote is somehow both less dramatic and more endearing. Sure, the context matters. Field had spent years fighting to be taken seriously after playing the Flying Nun and Gidget on television. She felt like Hollywood saw her as a lightweight, and that first Oscar for Norma Ray hadn't fully shaken that reputation. So when she won the second time, it wasn't just gratitude, it was validation. She's gone on record saying she cringes watching it. If Sally Field showed the vulnerable side of the Oscar speech, Jack Palance went on the exact opposite direction. Number 11, Jack Palance and the one-arm push-up at 73. March 30th, 1992. Palance wins Best Supporting Actor for City Slickers. He's 73 years old, and a lot of people in the audience probably assumed this was one of those lifetime achievement disguised as a competitive win situations. Palance walked on stage and, without warning, dropped to the floor and did one-arm push-ups on live television at 73. The audience went completely berserk. Billy Crystal, who hosted that night and had co-starred with Palance in the movie, spent the rest of the ceremony making callbacks to it. Every time he came back on stage, he referenced the push-ups. It became the running joke of the entire night. But it wasn't just a stunt. The guy was legitimately tough. He'd been a professional boxer before becoming an actor. His face had been reconstructed after his plane caught fire during a training exercise in World War II. He was the real deal. And at an age when most people were worried about their knees, Palance got on national television and said, "I'm still here, and I can still drop you." Number 10, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s volcanic speech, 1997. On March 24, 1997, Cuba Gooding Jr. wins Best Supporting Actor for Jerry Maguire. What follows is the most energetic and joyful acceptance speeches the Oscars may have ever seen. From the second his name was called, Gooding was already at a 10. He leaped out of his seat, and once he got to the microphone, he proceeded to thank every single human being he had ever met in his life, getting louder with each name. The orchestra started playing him off, and he didn't care. They got louder, he got louder. It became a battle of wills between a man living the greatest moment of his life and a group of musicians who had one job, and that was to make him stop talking. At one point, he literally screamed, "I love you," to seemingly the entire room.
But I'm here and I'm happy. I just want to, here we go. Okay, the studio, I love you, and Cameron Crowe and Tom Cruise. I love you, brother. I love you, man. Derek Crowe, Sean Settles, Keith Butler, all my behind-the-scenes crew. Regina King, I love you. You did a great job when we made the movie. Everybody involved with the movie, I love you. Oh, my goodness. Here we are. I love you. I'm going to keep going. Harley Junior Agency, everybody. I love you. I love you all. Cameron Crowe, James L. Brooks. James L. Brooks, I love you. Everybody who's involved with this, I love you. I love you. I love you. Everybody involved.
I want to give a quick shout out to vidIQ, the tool that I use to research topics, tune titles, and thumbnails, and see what exactly is trending. Hit the vidIQ link in the description to try it out and support the channel. I really appreciate it. Hey, and while you're down there, subscribe and consider joining as a member. It's a new thing I'm trying out. We've got the 99-cent club, which gives you a rolling shout out at the end of videos, and the $5 Bill Murray, which ups the ante with early access to new videos. So give it a shot. I really appreciate it. And if you want, check out some of my original merch at the Easy Shop. Anyway, let's get back to it. Number 9, Roberto Benigni climbs over seats, 1999. March 21st, 1999. The Italian director and star of Life is Beautiful, Roberto Benigni wins Best Foreign Language Film. And instead of walking to the stage like a normal person, Benigni stands up on his seat. Then he climbs onto the next seat, and the next one, and he's literally walking across the tops of chairs, stepping over and around some of the biggest movie stars on the planet at the time. When he finally arrived at the podium, he delivered a speech that was half Italian, half English, and entirely chaotic. He thanked his parents for the greatest gift of all, poverty. He talked about wanting to make love to everybody in the room. He was vibrating at a frequency that human beings are not designed to sustain. Later that same night, he won Best Actor too, beating Tom Hanks and Ian McKellen.
This is a terrible mistake because I used up all my English. No, I don't know.
By the second time, the audience knew what was coming, and the reaction was even bigger. You see, Life is Beautiful is a film about the Holocaust. It's about a father who shields his son from the horrors of a concentration camp by pretending the whole thing is a game. The film is devastating, and the man who made it, who lived inside that story, came to the Oscars and expressed pure, uncontainable joy. There's something beautiful about that contrast. Number 8, Citizen Kane loses to How Green Was My Valley, the original sin. In 1942, Citizen Kane, the film that is routinely called the greatest movie ever made, lost Best Picture to How Green Was My Valley. Now, if you've heard of How Green Was My Valley, congratulations. You're more dedicated to film history than me. If you haven't, well, that's kind of the point. Citizen Kane was nominated for 9 Oscars and won exactly 1. Best Original Screenplay. The film that revolutionized cinematography, narrative structure, sound design, and basically every technical aspect of filmmaking walked away with a writing award. What really happened was that Citizen Kane lost because of politics, not quality. William Randolph Hearst, the newspaper magnate that the film was transparently based on, launched a full-scale campaign to destroy it. Hearst banned any mention of the film in his newspapers. He threatened theater owners who screened it. He tried to buy the negative so he could burn it. The Academy voters, many of whom depended on favorable press coverage, got the message. A vote for Kane was a vote at your own risk. How Green Was My Valley is a perfectly fine movie, but it's not the greatest film ever made. And everybody in that room knew it. 80 plus years later, Citizen Kane is still studied in every film school on Earth. Meanwhile, How Green Was My Valley is a Jeopardy answer at best. Number 7. Rocky beats Taxi Driver, Network, and All the President's Men. In 1977, we had what might have been the most stacked Best Picture race in Oscar history. And the winner was one that had most people scratching their heads for decades later. The nominees were Taxi Driver, Network, All the President's Men, Bound for Glory, and Rocky. Taxi Driver is Martin Scorsese's masterpiece about urban decay and psychological breakdown. Network predicted the future of sensationalized media 30 years before it happened. All the President's Men is one of the greatest journalistic films ever made. And they all lost to a boxing movie about a nobody from Philadelphia. Now, I'm not here to trash Rocky, I love it. Rocky's a great film. The training montage alone is worth the price of admission. And the underdog story of Stallone himself, a broke actor who refused to sell the script unless he could star in it, is arguably more compelling than the movie. But the Academy choosing the feel-good crowd-pleaser over 3 films that each redefine their genre, well, that's a pattern that will repeat over and over again in Oscar history. When in doubt, the Academy picks the movie that makes them feel good about themselves. Number 6. Forrest Gump over Pulp Fiction and Shawshank. So with all that said, March 27, 1995, the nominees for Best Picture: Forrest Gump, Pulp Fiction, The Shawshank Redemption, 4 Weddings and a Funeral, and Quiz Show. Now, of course, we know Forrest Gump won. It won 6 Oscars that night, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor for Tom Hanks. It was a massive commercial hit and a genuine cultural phenomenon. But you gotta remember one thing. The Shawshank Redemption, which won exactly 0 Oscars on that night, is now the #1 rated film on IMDb, and it has been for years. And Pulp Fiction fundamentally changed the way movies are written, structured, and talked about. Quentin Tarantino knew it too. When he won Best Original Screenplay, he told the audience, "This is probably the only time I'll be up here tonight." And he was right. The argument over this one has never stopped. Not for 30 years. And it probably never will. But that's what the comment section is for. Number 5, Goodfellas loses to Dances with Wolves. If the Forrest Gump loss is a 3-way debate, this one is a straightforward robbery. In 1991, Martin Scorsese released Goodfellas. It's not one of the greatest crime films ever made. It's one of the greatest films of any kind ever made. The performances, the editing, the use of music, the long tracking shot through the Copacabana, everything about it is operating at the highest level cinema can deliver. And it lost Best Picture to Dances with Wolves.
And the Oscar goes to Dances with Wolves, Jim Wilson and Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner's directorial debut, a 3-hour Western about a Civil War soldier who befriends a tribe of Native Americans. Now look, Dances with Wolves is not a bad film. It's a perfectly respectable epic. But here's the problem. This loss was part of a pattern for Scorsese that became almost tragic. Raging Bull had already lost to Ordinary People in 1981. After Goodfellas, he'd go on to lose with Gangs of New York and The Aviator before finally winning for The Departed in 2007. When he finally won, the audience gave him a standing ovation that felt less like congratulations and more like collective guilt. And this is it, the final four. These aren't just Oscar moments, they're cultural landmarks. These are the nights where the biggest movies in the world met the biggest stage in entertainment, and the result was something nobody forgot. Number 4, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest sweeps the Big Five. March 29, 1976, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest became only the second film in history to sweep the Big Five. The first film to do it was It Happened One Night in 1934. And nobody thought it would ever happen again. The Big Five sweep requires a film to dominate every major category simultaneously. The writing, the directing, the two lead performances, it all has to be the best to beat everyone else in their respective fields. Jack Nicholson was, of course, at the peak of his powers as Randall McMurphy, the charming rebel committed to a psychiatric institution, who was met with Louise Fletcher, who delivered a chillingly controlled performance as Nurse Ratched. And Milos Forman directed the whole thing with a precision that made an institutional drama feel like a thriller. Nicholson himself had just come off of Chinatown a year before, which many people consider his single best performance. He didn't win for that one, so to get the Oscar for Cuckoo's Nest felt like a 1-2 punch, the Academy acknowledging both films at once. To this day, only 3 films have ever swept the Big Five. Cuckoo's Nest was the second, and the third one, well, that one's coming up right now. Number 3, Silence of the Lambs, the only horror film to win Best Picture. March 30th, 1992. The same night Jack Palance did those push-ups. Something else happened that still hasn't been repeated. The Silence of the Lambs won Best Picture, a horror movie, a film about a cannibal and a serial killer who skins his victims. That won the Academy Award for Best Picture. And it didn't just win, it swept the Big Five. The third and to this day final film to ever do it. Hopkins' win is particularly staggering when you look back at the numbers. He's only on screen for roughly 16 minutes. That's 16 minutes out of a 2-hour-long film. It's a performance so magnetic that even when the character isn't on screen, you're thinking about him. Billy Crystal opened the ceremony that night in a Hannibal Lecter mask, strapped to a hand truck. And since that moment, no horror film has won Best Picture. Given the Academy Awards taste, probably none will for a very long time. Number 2, Spielberg's Schindler's List Redemption. For over a decade, Steven Spielberg was the most successful director alive and the Academy's most famous snub victim. He had a massive resume of losses. Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, The Color Purple, 3 of the most beloved, most commercially successful, culturally important films of the 1980s. And the Academy said no to all of them. The Color Purple snub was especially painful because the film received 11 nominations and won 0. Not a single one. Spielberg wasn't even nominated for Best Director. The narrative around Spielberg became that he was brilliant, but not a serious filmmaker, and that he made popcorn movies, that he wasn't an artist. And then he made Schindler's List, a black and white film about the Holocaust, shot on location in Poland, using handheld cameras and natural light. It was the most personal film he'd ever made. Spielberg, who was Jewish, later said he cried every day on set and couldn't sleep at night. On March 21st, 1994, Schindler's List won 7 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Director. This wasn't just a win. It was Hollywood acknowledging that it had been wrong about him for 15 years. His speech was quiet, measured, grateful, not gloating, just a man who had poured himself into the most difficult film of his career and was finally being told, yes, this is enough. Number 1, Ke Huy Quan, Brendan Fraser, and the double whammy. If you grew up in the 80s, you know this kid. In 1984, a 12-year-old Vietnamese refugee was cast as Short Round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. He got the part by accident. His little brother was the one who went to the casting call, but the casting directors saw something in him, and suddenly, this kid who'd spent a year in a refugee camp after his family fled Vietnam, was standing on a movie set with Harrison Ford and Steven Spielberg. That very next year, he was Data in The Goonies, 2 iconic roles in 2 iconic films before he was old enough to drive. And then, a whole lot of nothing. Hollywood didn't have roles for Asian American actors in the late 80s and 90s, depending on who you ask, at least not many of them, and the ones they had were taken. He auditioned and heard the same thing over and over. There's nothing for you here. So he stopped acting. He went to USC Film School. He worked behind the camera as a stunt coordinator and assistant director. He worked on X-Men, and he worked for Wong Kar-wai's production company. He built a whole second career that nobody knew about. Then in 2018, he started auditioning again. And one of those auditions was for a weird little indie film about a laundromat owner who discovers that she can access the multiverse. And on March 12, 2023, at the 95th Academy Awards, Short Round won his Oscar for Best Supporting Actor.
Ki Hui Kwan, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
And the Oscar goes to Ki Hui Kwan.
My mom is 84 years old, and she's at home watching. Mom, I just want an Oscar. My journey started on a boat. I spent a year in a refugee camp, and somehow I ended up here on Hollywood's biggest stage. They say stories like this only happen in the movies. I cannot believe it's happening to me. This is the American dream. Thank you so much for welcoming me back. I love you. Thank you.
And on that same night, another beloved actor got his due. Brendan Fraser. Encino Man, George of the Jungle, The Mummy. He was the goofy, charming, impossibly likable leading man who showed up in basically every movie you rented, then he disappeared. What most people didn't know at the time was why. In 2003, Philip Burke, then the president of Hollywood Foreign Press Association, the organization behind the Golden Globes, sexually assaulted Fraser at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Fraser didn't go public with it for 15 years, but the damage was done. He believes he was quietly blacklisted for the incident. The guy who'd been on every movie poster in the late 90s was gone. Not retired, just disappeared. Then, Darren Aronofsky cast him in The Whale as Charlie. It took 10 years to find the right person for the role. When The Whale premiered at the Venice Film Festival, the audience gave Fraser a 6-minute standing ovation. Tears streaming down his face, bowing over and over. He couldn't believe it was happening. On Oscar night, Halle Berry and Jessica Chastain read his name. Brendan Fraser had won Best Actor. He walked to the stage, eyes red, voice shaking, and he said,
"So this is what the multiverse looks like."
Then he said something that hit different if you knew what he'd been through. "I started this business 30 years ago, and things didn't come easy.
But there was a facility that I didn't appreciate at the time until it stopped. And I just want to say thank you for this acknowledgement, each one and all. I'm so grateful to you. Good night."
That's a man talking about having a career, his confidence, and his sense of self, and he's saying it on the biggest stage in entertainment, holding the biggest prize that they can give him. Everyone has missed him. 2 comeback stories one night, the kid from Temple of Doom and the guy from The Mummy, standing on the same stage 40 years into their careers, respectively, both holding Oscars. So there it is, 20 moments, 84 years of history. Which of these moments hit the hardest for you? Let me know in the comments. And if you think I missed one, which I know I did, tell me which moment you would like to have seen on the list. Please remember to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next, and if you haven't already, drop a like on this video. It helps a lot more than you think. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.